And so, in Silicon Valley, there's always this sort of idea that you want to be the first mover. And I always think it's in some ways, the better framing is you want to be the last mover. You want to be the last company in a category. Those are the ones that are really valuable. Microsoft was the last operating system, at least for many decades. Google is the last search engine. Facebook will be valuable if it turns out to be the last social networking site. And one way to think of this last mover value is this idea that most of the value in these companies exists far in the future. If you do sort of a discounted cash flow analysis of a business, you have sort of all these profit streams, you have a growth rate, the growth rate's much higher than the discount rate, and so most of the value exists far in the future. I did this exercise at PayPal in March of 2001. We had been in business for about 27 months, and we sort of had, the growth rate was 100% a year. We were discounting future cash flows by about 30%, and it turned out that about 3/4 of the value of the business as of 2001 came from cash flows in years 2011 and beyond. And whenever you do the math on any of these tech companies, you get to an answer that's something like that. So if you are trying to analyze any of the tech companies in Silicon Valley, Airbnb, Twitter, Facebook, any emerging internet companies, all the ones in Y Combinator, the math tells you that 3/4, 85% of the value is coming from cash flows in years 2024 and beyond. It's very, very far in the future. And so one of the things that we always overvalue in Silicon Valley is growth rates, and we undervalue durability. Because growth is something you can measure in the here and now, and you can always track that very precisely. The question of whether a company is still going to be around a decade from now, that's actually what dominates the value equation, and that sort of is a much more qualitative sort of a thing. And so if we went back to this idea of these characteristics of monopoly, proprietary technology, network effects, economies of scale, you can think of these characteristics as ones that exist at a moment in time where you capture a market and take it over. But you also want to think about, are these things going to last over time? And so there's a time dimension to all these characteristics. So network effects often have a great time element where as the network scales, the network effects actually get more robust. And so if you have a network effect business, that's often one that can become a bigger and stronger monopoly over time. Proprietary technology is always a little bit of a tricky one. So you want something that's an order of magnitude better than the state of the art in the world today. And that's how you get people's attention. That's how you initially break through. But then you don't want to be superseded by somebody else. And so there are all these areas of innovation where there was tremendous innovation, but no one made any money. So disk drive manufacturing in the 1980s, you could build a better disk drive than anybody else. You could take over the whole world, and 2 years later, someone else would come along and replace yours. And in the course of 15 years, you got vastly improved disk drives. So it had great benefit to consumers, but it didn't actually help the people who started these companies. And so there's always this question about having a huge breakthrough in technology, but then also being able to explain why yours will be the last breakthrough, or at least the last breakthrough for a long time, or where you make a breakthrough and then you can keep improving on it at a quick enough pace that no one can ever catch up.